I hope we can dive in here for just a moment.
Yeah.
You guys, I have been so frustrated by the people who have said, why would you turn the TV off when we still have people who look like us there?
Who?
Well, there are people on every network, on every major network.
I picked that up.
Yeah.
On every major network
They
who
not
look
like
us. And I think, to me, we cannot be so self-serving that we're self-sabotaging. What I want to make sure that we as a people understand right now is that in order for you to survive and to maintain your voice, you got to build your own. You just do. So I really believe our highest service for your highest good is telling you, you are not safe. You are not safe. America, you are not safe. And anybody on a platform, on a major network, you're not safe.
Right.
You're actually next. If you're speaking truth to power, you are next.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that our folks know it's not about like or dislike or if you say what I would say or not. I love you enough to say you are not safe. Start building your own.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And turn the TV off. Like I'm not going to make a caveat for if there's one program or the other, or if there's one commentator or the other. We're living in a fascist society.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense to me. Go somewhere where you can tell the people the truth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lolo, for
they
sending your clips.
They do make a difference to me.
That's
It does
a
make
little
a difference to me who the people are and what position they occupy at a place. I don't have the same reaction to, for instance, some of the other, one of the other cancellations that had taken place.
Yeah.
The reason I take issue with this one is because Joy was living, doing, breathing,
True.
and putting out into the world for our own digestment the truth. She was the bringer of
Absolutely,
truth, right?
yeah.
On television. And there's not a lot of that. And the public,
they've erased it all.
The public way in which they did what they did to Joy is a shot over the bow to anyone else who thinks that they may want to act free on TV. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Your freedom
The
has
corporate
caveats.
boardroom is still in charge.
Yeah.
They've never relinquished their power
But
now.
the corporate boardroom isn't in charge because they would do what makes sense for advertisers. Who is in charge is the de facto chair of the FCC. That is why Donald Trump would tweet or post on social media finally about Joy. They are trying to bend to the will of Trump. Yes, because they think it makes business sense.
They're also not being pressed very hard to do that bending. I mean,
At
some
all.
of them
he
are.
went like this. He said,
He blew.
That's it.
Then they were a house of cards and they came tumbling down, which also tells me, and we ought to be clear about this, to your point around build your own.
Build
These folks are
your
not invested in us.
at all.
Yeah.
They're invested toward an end. And that end, you best believe, is going to be in their best interest.
You're a
or they wouldn't be there.
transaction.
That's it.
You're there
it's a
until you
trade.
don't make sense to them anymore. You're there until you get unsafe for them. You're there until you make them uncomfortable.
Key.
That's
key.
it.
If you
Until you make them
compromise
uncomfortable.
any piece of what they feel that they have accredited to themselves, you're out and there's no second guessing it. If you take from me.
Andrew, I want to say this too. And Tiff, I don't know if you guys saw this piece, but our friend Ellie Mistal, who's been on our show, wrote this amazing piece about Joy Reid and the nation. And what I appreciate about that piece so much is how earnest he was.
Yeah.
He talked about feeling like he needed to cut his hair to be on TV. And Joy told him, no, you keep your beautiful black hair. He's like, obviously it's great, but so she's talking about this afro. And the other thing that he talked about was her making him feel like he was safe on air and that he didn't just have to come on to talk about black issues. He said there aren't a lot of hosts and folks like Joy. That is one thing that we absolutely have to understand. And the other thing that I really want to say is people have got to know that in this environment, if you're going to get up and say you're speaking for the culture, no strings attached, no, what am I trying to say? No caveats. Like you're unabashedly yourself and you're an anchor or a host on one of those networks. It's just a lie.
Yeah.
You have to. Joy herself will attest to this. There are certain things they wouldn't let her cover.
Yes.
So don't act like what we're saying is far-fetched. There are standards and practices. There are things that make
There were plenty of things. They literally would go comb through. After Tucker Carlson attacked me, they would comb through my show. I was told I couldn't mention Tucker's name on my show before. There are stories that I couldn't cover. And the challenge is, I just want to take a second and say this isn't even, if you just take personality out of it, because it's not even a diss to anybody.
No.
But if you just look at that 7 o'clock hour, this is a 24-hour news channel, okay? So God forbid there is breaking news in the 7 o'clock hour, because there is not a single journalist who will be able to cover it. Let's just say that Zelensky yields and says, okay, we're going, and he's having a press conference. The NBC and MSNBC have split. So you're not going to a foreign correspondent. Yeah. Now you are solo on that desk with millions, maybe millions, probably hundreds of thousands of people watching. And you have to walk them through a very complicated set of what's happening on the Eastern Bloc. Your opinion, your commentating is so less important if you are not a bona fide journalist who has navigated a newsroom, who is aware of what's happening domestically and across the globe, that you can walk your viewers who are tuning into you to trust you to do that. Joy would do that beautifully and brilliantly. She was able to give her opinion. And she was also able to inform people. I certainly tried to do that on my show, every Saturday. And there was breaking news on Saturday mornings. Oh, Tiffany, you had this whole show planned, but an apartment building just collapsed in Florida. We got to go to that reporter live. It takes training to know how to do that, to walk people through that. And they don't have it. So what that says to me, not only do they not care about us, they don't care about none of y'all. They don't even care about the viewers. And that's not a diss to anybody. Like Mychael Steele, he knows, like, I'm cool. Alicia Menendez, like she was my former coworker. So it's not a diss to either of them, but it's just a classic observation of what news has become. It has become entertainment. They have people on air discussing things they have no business. You have never worked in politics. You have never worked on a campaign. You've never covered a campaign, but you are on a political panel discussing domestic policy and foreign policy.
I wish you felt the kind of way about it.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.